what would the ultimate F1 car look like?
Formula One is about building the quickest car possible and going racing, right? Well, actually, it's not that simple. The sports governing body, the FIA, have a sizable handbook of rules to make sure teams build cars to set regulations. These regulations cover safety, cost management, making sure the racing is close, and sometimes making sure the cars still look like, well, F1 cars. That got us to thinking, what would an F1 car look like if designers and engineers had complete freedom? Whether it's midway through qualifying, halfway through breakfast, or maybe whilst you're even on the toilet, every F1 fan has wondered at some point what the cars would look like without restrictions. So, using some of the most genius tech innovations that the sport has ever seen, join us as we create the ultimate F1 car. Let's start with the wheels. 4 of them, right? Oh no. In the late 1970s, Tyrrell introduced 4 small wheels at the front of the car to clean up airflow to the rear wing and to try and reduce the frontal area of the car, thus reducing drag. Despite the complexity of extra steering mechanisms and braking components, the car was actually pretty competitive, winning the 1976 Swedish Grand Prix as the extra wheels provided incredible grip on turning. Other teams tried 6-wheel designs, with the 4 wheels at the back. Williams most notably did this with the FW08B in 1982. Both pair of rear wheels were driven, effectively making it 4-wheel drive and giving the car immense traction. The smaller wheels also allowed more space for the ground effect tunnels, helping increase downforce. In testing, the drivers loved it and set track records. However, before the car could race, the FIA banned 6-wheelers and 4-wheel drive from the sport. But screw the rules. We're giving our ultimate F1 car 8 wheels, 4 at the front and 4 at the back. You can never have enough downforce, right? So let's add ground effects for even more downforce, plus a fan on the back, as seen on the famous Brabham BT46B. Ground effect utilises tunnels under the cars, which were sealed by skirts on either side. This created low pressure underneath, effectively sucking the car to the ground. Brabham exploited this with the BT46B, which used a fan under the guise of cooling the engine to accelerate the airflow and produce even more downforce. It entered a single race and won before the concept was withdrawn by the team. Ground effect itself lasted until 1982, after which it was banned as the huge downforce caused cornering speeds to rocket, which made it difficult for the drivers of that era to handle. But we don't have to worry about such things. Let's move on to driver aids, like active suspension, traction control, ABS, and CVT gearing. No one did this better than Williams in the early 90s. The 1992 Williams FW14B perfected a number of technical achievements that had been developed by teams over previous years. Active suspension kept the car level and constantly adjusted the ride height to provide maximum downforce. ABS and traction control made the cars easier to drive. Plus, it was designed by Adrian Newey, so it was aerodynamically top-notch. The 1993 FW15C refined these to become one of the most technologically advanced cars of all time. The team even tested a CVT gearbox, which keeps the engine running at the optimum rev range and in the power band at all times, making for better acceleration. However, it was banned before it could be introduced, and by the end of the season, traction control, ABS, and active suspension were also banned. Traction control made the odd comeback until being banned for good in 2008, but there's little doubt that such driver aids could instantly see lap times reduce, even if they take away from the skill of the driver. To help make our ultimate F1 car even faster, we'll want to reduce drag. In the 1950s, it was reasonably common for some teams to enclose the wheels of the cars at high-speed tracks to improve straight-line speeds, most notably Mercedes. At the end of the decade, it was made mandatory for F1 cars to be open-wheelers, and it wasn't really missed. But in this modern age of aerodynamics, enclosed wheels would provide a huge opportunity for teams to optimize aero, increasing cornering speeds and reduce drag. For the same reason, teams would love to enclose the driver in a closed cockpit too. So, controversially, I'm sure, let's throw that on there too. Right, now for the fun part, power. And sorry to have to say this, but it's bad news for the Bring Back the V12s brigade. The current V6 hybrids are among the most powerful, reliable, and efficient power units F1 has ever seen. Sure, the sound leaves a lot to be desired, and we'd love to say that if teams had a choice, they'd use V10s or V12s, but when teams last had a choice in the 70s and 80s, small capacity turbos overwhelmingly turned out to be the better option. Therefore, the ultimate F1 engine is probably something that's already on the current grid. And of those, the Mercedes power unit is probably the best. It's around 1,000 brake horsepower, it's fuel efficient, and it's reliable enough to last thousands of kilometers, unlike V10s, which were only good for 1 or 2 races max. So there you have it. Our ultimate Formula One car is complete. The only thing left is for us to find the ultimate F1 driver to pilot this beast. Oh, never mind. We found him.